If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Taylor hit, but he bounces into the end zone. Touchdown! I-N-D-Y!
How can we, like you mentioned, as pillars, as guys who are leaders on this team, how can we turn that around?
Play action. Now he's in trouble, and he's going to be brought down. A sack for the Colts. DeForest Buckner back to the 27-yard line.
Never quit. I never not fault. I never not compete. And I will always continue to be a great leader, a great competitor.
Now he checks it down left side, looking for the end zone for Alec Pierce, and he's got it. Touchdown, Alec Pierce.
This is the official Colts podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes. In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
Welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of the official Colts podcast here at the end of May. We're brought to you by WinBet. Matt Taylor here, Larra Overton in studio, JJ Stankevitz as well. Hope everybody out there had a great Memorial Day weekend. I know I did. Memorial Day weekend, always the unofficial kickoff to summer around these parts. JJ, how was your holiday weekend? How was the ride home from the airport?
Oh, it was great. Ride home was great. It was snappy, very quick.
How long did it take you to get to the airport?
About an hour. But that's
not bad.
So Lyft has surge zones outside of IMS, and there was one circle that was like a $20 surge, a second circle that was larger that was like $10. And at the airport, I was outside of that circle, so I paid a regular old price for my ride home. It was great.
Straight out Crawfordsville Road, or how did you go? How did you get to the airport?
I think we went down 10th.
Yeah, okay. So you're on like the south side of the track there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to, I don't have the tweet in front of me, but I had a listener offer me his Mark Burley White Sox jersey to wear to the race.
Oh, man, big time.
After our discussion last week.
Big time. What did you end up going with?
I went with my Manchester City kit, as they say in soccer. But I was keeping a running track of the best jerseys I saw.
Mm-hmm.
If you were the person wearing the Minute Bowl Washington Bullets jersey, bravo, round of applause. That was my favorite one that I saw.
That's great. You didn't see three members of the 96 Indiana Pacers finding themselves.
You didn't see Smith happens?
I asked you, and you said Tucker just wore a regular shirt.
Wore a
like
shirt.
An adult. Yeah. You also added at the end of it.
Like someone over 18 should. Right? So he went to the race. You didn't go, Larra?
No. I chilled by the pool.
So Dan went, and you just hung out with friends, right?
Yeah.
Listen to the race on radio.
Yeah, that's how marriage works, Matt Taylor.
Yeah, compromise. You don't have to be together all the time. In fact, that's how we last as long as we are, right?
You lean into certain things. You're like, yeah, you go. You have a blast. I know my boundaries, I'm going to be right here.
Stay in your lane. No
pun
intended.
I'm going to go pick up the dog from doggy daycare because he spent the night doggy daycare on Saturday. I'm going to pick up the pizza so that when all the boys got back from the track, we had pizza ready to go. And I laid out and sunned myself and listened to the radio broadcast, and
everybody has a great day.
Yeah, I didn't have to go to the airport and get an Uber
sit in
home.
Traffic. Yeah. Two hours. It took me to get home.
Well, it's one of those things where when you get long weekends in the summer and when you work as many weekends, over the course of the year as we do when you're involved in sports, when you have a weekend that there's a major sporting event and you have the luxury of not going, you kind of take advantage of it.
Working.
So I feel completely refreshed and recharged now.
But see, I'm on the other end of it where I like going to a couple of sporting events a year.
For sure.
Where I don't have to work.
Yeah.
Me too.
Me too. I had some people just kind of reflexively ask me when I said I'm going to the 500. They're like, "Oh, are you working?" And I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
Sit back and have a beer at a sporting event.
Oh, yeah. I
want to concept to me.
You didn't bring a laptop to turn one?
That's me at Pacers games. I'm all jacked up. I'm so excited. Oh, there's a T-shirt toss. I'm out of my seat. I am in it, I'm yelling, Tua,
Yeah, I don't take that for granted anymore.
JJ left the house at 5 a.m., got back at 7:15. That was a day.
14-hour day.
That was a day. Yeah, you're out in the sun. I mean,
you recovered yet?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I slept until about 8 o'clock on Memorial Day, which is very rare.
That is, good for you.
Got that out of the way and feel refreshed a little bit. But I always say it's a great day, but a long day. And it is the Super Bowl for Indianapolis racing fans and racing fans all over the Midwest as they come to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We are picking right back up with football talk this week, though, talking all things OTAs and the Colts. That's because the team started week 2 of a 3-week period this week. They have 10 different sessions in total, and we'll talk about the reps being split up between Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew, how those guys looked last week, and we'll talk about some other rookies that stood out as well. And Larra, always love having this guy. Antoine Bethea is in studio
one of
with
the
us.
greats.
He was in town last week actually talking and giving some advice to the Colts rookies. So we'll chat with him on what he had to say.
That's a pretty dynamic duo. It was Edgerrin James and Antoine Bethea together.
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And those guys were never teammates because Edge left in 2005 and
Wow,
Antoine left in
I guess,
2006.
yeah.
You know, we kind of lumped those guys in together in that same era, but yeah, they never shared the field together as teammates with the Colts.
That's wild to think about.
For sure. So let's talk about those quarterback reps. Richardson and Minshew.
Well, hold on. 100 days away from the start of the season right now.
Today is really?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Everyone
Wow.
on Twitter and Cynthia Freeland, who
There's a
is-
realization.
right? Cynthia Freeland, who's fantastic, and she's joined us at the Combine, and believe that we will see her in Buffalo for preseason game 1. She normally does the sideline reporting for the Buffalo broadcasts during the preseason, but she has kind of a cool Twitter thread, and I might have to steal this, or maybe I just shout out everybody here right now. She said, 100 days until kickoff, maybe make one goal and see how far you can come by kickoff. If you want a receipt for yourself, she asking people to drop it below. So maybe we should all, by the end of this podcast, make a 100-day commitment before the start of the
So
season.
it's like a
to
New Year's
something.
resolution reset.
Kind of, yeah.
Wow.
But even better, who needs New Year's?
Yeah.
It's the
Just give it
NFL season.
September.
Yeah.
By the time it's New Year's, we're in week 17. My
Bring home.
resolution is I'm going to be refreshed going into the season. I don't know how I'm going to
I
get there.
hope that
but
for you.
I'm going to be refreshed.
I hope
Yeah,
that
good
for you.
luck,
I
brother.
hope your twins comply.
yeah.
Yeah, right. It's not just about me on this one.
I've got 2 reasons why that may not work for you. But, yeah, good luck to you, pal. Okay, 7-on-7, 11-on-11 worked for both guys, Richardson and Minshew last week. Both guys took first-team reps with the offense. And we know from the get-go, right, you've got Chris Ballard, you've got Jim Irsay, Shane Steichen. They have been open to Richardson starting right away as a rookie, even if that means he takes his lumps and makes some mistakes and, goes through that baptism by fire right away as a rookie. So your first chance, JJ, last week to see Richardson on the field, 11-on-11, going up against a live defense, making reads, making checks to the line of scrimmage. What did you think of the rookie last week?
I mean, the physical stuff is just it's just immense. The way the ball pops out of his hand. I was just watching the quarterbacks go through warm-ups. And Gardner Minshew has a good arm. Sam Ehlinger's arm strength is coming along. It is not deficient. And then Richardson threw the ball, and I just started laughing. I was honestly, the arm strength that he possesses, the way the ball just explodes out of his hand, it is, I can't wait for Colts fans to see it at training camp.
Well, and there's an effortlessness
Yes.
with which he
It's a
whips
flick.
it around.
Yeah, it's a flick of the wrist.
That's what I was talking to a couple of the scouts about, is just kind of how wild it is, the kind of ease with which he can flick the football and do it on the move, too, the way that he is able to.
He can do it off platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
The one thing I will say over the next couple of weeks is I don't care how many passes he completes. I don't care how many touchdowns he throws or interceptions he throws. This part of the year, performance on the field is so you're working on basic concepts. You're working on installing basic stuff. You're not looking for the guys to be perfect right now. You're looking for them to learn. You're looking for them to take what they learned in the film room, in the classroom, and apply it on the field, not make the same mistake twice.
Right.
I learned just in covering a highly picked rookie quarterback before that charting what they do during this part of the year where guys are in shorts and helmets, I don't care about that particularly. The people who really know how a guy's progressing are going to be Shane Steichen, Jim Bob Cooter, Cam Turner. Those are going to be the guys who are going to be able to tell you how Richardson is actually doing. And the early report from Shane Steichen, pretty impressive. He likes the way that Richardson's handling things mentally right now, and I think that's the biggest thing as you look at him out there.
But I love putting him out there, though, with the first-team offense. And we've talked about this, but putting him out there with the first-team offense right away, even if it is an OTA setting, it gives him a chance to start building that chemistry and that rapport with players that he's actually going to be out there on Sundays with potentially. So get him in the huddle with those guys and let him go through that routine and get him ingrained with the players he's actually going to see in that huddle. I thought, Larry, what we saw last week was pretty predictable in terms of what you thought you were going to see, right? There's those dazzling plays of athleticism and great throws and running out of the pocket and making things happen. And then, right, you still have mistakes and errant throws that come with only playing 1 year as a starter in college football and still learning the footwork and getting used to a 5-step drop and stuff like that. So I thought it was pretty much on par with what I thought I was going to see going into the first week of OTAs.
I think one of the things that stood out to me, and I feel like, JJ, I think you and I were talking about this, the pace of practice,
Yes.
it's pretty zesty. Out there. Like, they keep things moving. Things go really quick. There's some really interesting different drills that they are putting a lot of the quarterbacks through, especially in regards to footwork and responsiveness and reaction time, that were really intriguing to watch. So I thought overall something that I felt like was exciting to see is Anthony, certainly, but really how all of the rookies were able to keep up with the pace that they were running practice with, because it's pretty demanding. They're certainly getting the most out of the time that they have. They're getting a lot of things in. I don't mean demanding by very strenuous. Of course, you can't do any sort of contact or those type of things right now. I'm just saying the pace of it all and how rapid things are moving and how much they're getting in that, very slim window of time that they are allotted by the NFL, the NFLPA. They really get to it. And there's not a lot of standing around. And so I thought the way that those rookies were able to respond and how they're keeping up in those situations was really encouraging.
I think they're looking for breadcrumbs that give you a good indication of where this team is going over the next couple of weeks and months. That's a really good one, Larra, that practice was crisp and efficient.
Yeah.
That it wasn't a lot of coaches
and
having
energy's really high.
And energy's good. And it wasn't a lot of coaches or captains having to remind players of how to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you want to see in that first week of OTAs, that, okay, everything we've done in phase 1 and phase 2, now we get some real time on the grass on the practice field. It is translating. It is making sense to these guys. It is being communicated properly and now being executed properly, just in terms of how crisp everything was.
There's an expectation of how this works, right? How we operate. We're only allowed to be out here a certain amount of time, so we have to get the most out of that and maximize it with that efficiency there. One of the things that you've heard since Anthony Richardson was drafted by the Colts, especially given the Shane Steichen connection, is how long before Anthony Richardson turns into Jalen Hurts? And the question is, do you think Richardson has the potential to improve to the degree under Shane Steichen like Jalen Hurts did? And if you go back and look at Hurts in his first year, completed 52% of his passes, just over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. He wasn't the full-time starter then. His first season with Steichen, though, those numbers jump up to 61%, 16 touchdowns, 4 picks. Last year, as we all know, he was an MVP candidate. Completion percentage jumped way up, 66.5, 3,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 picks. JJ, do you think Richardson next year can improve drastically in the completion percentage and play like Jalen Hurts did, either aesthetically or analytically?
Yeah, I think what you want to see is that progression in Richardson's completion percentage over probably a 3-year span here, over his first 3 years in the league, because that's what Hurts did. Like you mentioned, Mate, that's what Josh Allen did in Buffalo, where those two guys are really good examples of the kind of changing philosophy in the NFL that you can improve completion percentage, you can improve accuracy in young quarterbacks for most of the existence of this game. It's kind of thought if you aren't accurate in college, you can't be accurate in the NFL. And over the last couple of years, we've seen that kind of get broken. What I'm really interested in, whenever Richardson does begin starting, is really the QB run game. Because that was the bedrock for how the Eagles developed Jalen Hurts. Over the last 2 seasons, with Shane Steichen as his offensive coordinator in 21 and 22, Jalen Hurts ran the ball 90 times on read option plays. That's second in the NFL behind Lamar Jackson, who did it 111 times. The next closest was Marcus Mariota with 51. So, Hurts is in his own league with Lamar Jackson in terms of how much they ran the ball just on read options. And then you get into scrambles, you get into designed quarterback runs where there's no fake to a running back. And, Hurts is right up there with Lamar Jackson in terms of how much he ran the football. That, to me, if you can develop that as a bedrock for Richardson, then the passing will grow on that because you're making it easier for him. You're not giving him, hopefully, a lot of hard throws on 3rd and 7. If you can get yourself ahead of the sticks and not make him make some S-tier level throws as a rookie, that will just inevitably help his confidence, and I think you can build his completion percentage on that.
Why the sigh?
Okay.
I heard you over there.
Why
the sigh, lady?
I know everyone wants to make comparisons, and they want, it to be, how close can it be to this or that? This is going to be my command to everybody for the next 9 months or so. Stop it. Don't expect him to be Jalen Hurts. Don't compare him to Lamar. Don't compare him to Cam Newton. Enough with the comparisons. We get it that people want to see that through the combine and who does he stack up like? Who does he look like? But I just think that to some degree, it's so unfair because you look at the wealth that Jalen Hurts had around him in Philadelphia last season, and I think that a lot of this is very unfair. Some of the comparisons that people are trying to make and some of the reaches that are there, and I think that you just have to allow him to form into the unique environment that he's going to be thrust into. And I think that the comparisons are just very, very difficult for any rookie quarterback, period. This isn't just an Anthony Richardson thing, but I do think that people have and this is what it goes to. He's like a unicorn of athleticism, right? He has such a unique skill set that everyone struggles to find, who is he like? What have we seen? And so I think that they have such a struggle to figure out how to, kind of assess exactly what he can develop into because he is so unique. So I think we need to stop trying to make those different comparisons and allow him to be this completely unique specimen that he is. That means he's going to have a completely different trajectory in getting to be a top-tier quarterback.
And I agree with that.
I love this.
And I don't disagree with that. The line of questioning, though, was more because JJ's right. Josh Allen really improved his accuracy the first couple of years in the NFL because he is on a great team, and he does have great weapons. And certainly Jalen Hurts benefited from great weapons and a great offense around him as well. I bring up Jalen Hurts not to compare Richardson to him, more so that he was the quarterback that last worked under Shane Steichen and improved greatly in completion percentage and all these other metrics. That was the reason to bring up Jalen Hurts. And he does have Richardson, that is going to have much better weapons and an offensive skill set around him than he did at Florida last year when they were dropping all those passes and not competing in the SEC offensively like they wanted to.
Well, here's why I totally agree with the direct comparison thing that, Larry, you're bringing up. Every single quarterback that has been drafted since 2011, when I think the NFL began shifting toward more of a passing league, it's when the rookie wage scale came into play. How many quarterbacks have been taken in the top 10 in that span? Not many. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them is totally different as a player. You can't just look back and say, well, yeah, Anthony Richardson's just like Cam Newton, except he's not. Richardson's more athletic than Cam Newton. Well, he's just like Josh Allen. He's more athletic than Josh Allen. And
he's quite a bit bigger than Jalen Hurts.
He's bigger than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
But think about it, too. Carolina, Bryce Young. We've literally never seen a quarterback like Bryce Young before in the NFL. C.J. Stroud. Maybe he's like Jared Goff. I don't know. He's probably more athletic than Jared Goff. You can make all these comparisons. It's sort of to me, what's interesting is the coaching framework that goes into this. It's not like I mentioned how many times Jalen Hurts carried. I'm not going to mention how many yards he got. That doesn't matter as much to me. It's more how did he get coached up to then develop. But it's going to be a different way to coach Anthony Richardson than Jalen Hurts. Maybe it's somewhat similar in terms of how the Colts run the ball, but maybe it's not. Maybe they realize, well, Hurts had a different running skill set than Anthony Richardson. They're both good at running, but maybe it's different. Richardson, Hurts scrambled a lot his first year under Shane Steichen.
Right.
Richardson's not a guy who scrambles all that much. When Richardson gets outside the pocket, he keeps his eyes downfield. He even did it on a play in OTAs where he kind of got outside the pocket a little bit, kept his eyes downfield, threw a strike. I think it was to Kylan Granson.
Yeah, that was that seam pattern.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the kind of stuff right there. That is like, that's a trait in a quarterback that you want. But Richardson doesn't need to maybe be a heavy scrambler in the way that Jalen Hurts did. So there are just some differences here that we're going to need to keep an eye on. And I totally agree with you, Larra. Like, Richardson's his own player.
Yeah.
He's not Hurts. He's not Allen. He's not Cam Newton. He's Anthony Richardson. Let's see how he develops.
Yeah. And I think he will, though, really improve under Shane Steichen like Hurts did, like really improve. And obviously the baseline from college is there at 53%. He's got nowhere to go but up. But yeah, I think Shane Steichen is the perfect coach for Richardson to allow him to be much, much better in terms of making quick decisions, getting the ball out where it needs to go, and having more accuracy because he just, quite frankly, has better players and a better scheme around him playing quarterback. So that's certainly where I was going with that. Now, how do you think this all ends up? Like, how do you think the first-team quarterback reps get divided from here on out? Like, at what point do you think there's going to be one or the other, Gardner Minshew or Richardson, Larra, getting the lion's share of those reps? Is that later on in OTAs, or is that minicamp, or do we have to go a couple weeks into training camp to get to that point?
I think things are going to be pretty even right now through this period, much like we heard Shane Steichen describe them as last week. I think you'll keep a little bit more of that. Maybe there are certain days where the workload skews to one a little bit more than the other, depending upon what they're doing and different things like that. But I think you're going to see, maybe it's not a precise 50-50 first-team rep split, but I think it's going to be pretty close through vet minicamp as to not overwhelm one or the other and still to provide pretty fair opportunities to both the guys that you have plus Sam Ehlinger, of course, in there as well. I don't think you're going to see them skew much from that until you really get into the thick of training camp and you're really able to get a lot more of the meaningful work out of those team periods.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at once you get through the heavy install phase of training camp, maybe that's when you start seeing more separation in that. So to kind of answer your question, Mate, that's probably a few weeks into training camp.
And you know what makes me really excited about that is I think for the first, I want to say, I shouldn't say for the first time in a while, but I mean, because they've always been meaningful, but I really think that preseason is going to be really exciting this year. Of course, we've had new quarterbacks the past few seasons, so it has been an important period in these last few years where you've had the different guys coming in, especially, Carson and Matt Ryan and all of that. But I do think right now those 3 games are going to give you a lot to watch and a lot to assess when it comes to how much you see Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew, when you see Sam Ehlinger, in addition to everyone else that you're looking forward to watching. Yeah. So from somebody who...
And all those rookies, too.
It's exactly right. A ton of those rookies who are going to be expected to be meaningful contributors come week 1, and they're going to need to show some things in those preseason opportunities. All
right, speaking of rookies, and again, Antoine Bethea is going to join us in just a second. We'll hear from him. Again, he was talking rookies last week to the Colts first-year players. Any other rookies for you, JJ, that caught your eye last week in the OTAs?
Well, I mean, Darius Rush had a pick 6. I'm going to go with him. And standing next to Rick Venturi during practice and just hearing him gush
and he's
about Darius
he's
Rush.
my dark horse to start.
Yeah, I mean, you see the ball skills that he has as a former wide receiver, the 4.36 speed. He's got good length. Ron Miles has a couple dudes to work with there. Darius Rush is one of them who kind of caught my eye early on.
Yeah. The rookies are going through so much this time of year, right? The draft process, the combine, learning a new playbook now, moving to a new city, learning new teammates, acclimating to just the NFL lifestyle and the grind and how to handle your money, where to live, how to be a pro. There's a lot on their plate, and a guy that navigated it very well early in his career for the Colts, that was Antoine Bethea. He started right away as a safety in 2006. He was in town last week, as Larra said, with Edgerrin James, talking with Colts rookies, shedding some advice to the first-year players. And before he did that, though, Casey Valier and we had a chance to catch up with him in studio. Here's our chat with Antoine Bethea late last week. Take a listen. Joining us now, Antoine Bethea, Colts safety, Colts great From 2006 to 2013, he was here inside this building, inside the locker room, 14 years in the NFL, retired in 2019. Antoine, it's always fantastic to have you in this studio. How have you been?
I've been great, and I appreciate you for having me.
You know, we talked to you last summer. I think we talked to you on the phone.
Yep.
It was our Colts Reunion podcast series. So you're in here talking to the Colts rookies today. Tell us, what involvement that entails for you.
So, the great David Thornton, he does a great job with the guys. And, he reached out and, asked, hey, would you be willing to come and speak to the rookies? And I said, I definitely would. And, just be able to come and tell them my story, my experience, what I went through as a rookie, what I could expect not only on the field but off the field as well. So anything I could do to help the Colts, help the rookies, I'm all for it.
The rookie year for an NFL player. I mean, certainly a different dynamic. What do you remember most about being drafted and then coming into your first off-season workout program in the spring?
Man, it was a lot, and it happened so fast. You think about the end of your college season and all the things you have to go through, combine, and getting drafted, getting that call, or even if you don't get that call, but you get the call, and it's so many emotions, not only for you but your family that's been with you through the process, and when you walk into the building, and I would say for me, I can only speak for myself. It was, you got Peyton Manning, you got Marvin Harrison, you got Jeff Saturday, you got Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark, you got so many greats that you was watching on TV, Bob Sanders, you know what I mean? It's like so many greats you were watching on TV. Now I'm in the locker room with them, I'm playing alongside with them, and I'll be lined up in front of them doing OTAs. So it was so many different emotions, but again, a time that I'll never forget.
Now, that's literally where I wanted to go with that. I mean, you get drafted in the 6th round to a team who, we all know that as a rookie, you win the Super Bowl, so you get drafted to a team that is stacked.
Right.
What are your first emotions? Like, you see the team that you're getting drafted to and go, wow, we can win right now. How exciting was that moment?
Very. So, obviously, the first thing, I just want an opportunity with any 32 of the teams in the NFL. But then when it was the Colts, it was like, all right, that's even better.
Right.
Because, honestly, I think everybody knew they should have won the Super Bowl the year prior, right?
Correct.
So to be able to come into an organization and, you have Coach Dungy, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame general manager as far as Bill Polian. So to be able to come into a locker room like the Colts and the culture, it was just unbelievable. And my only thought was just go in there and show that you're different in some type of way, right? And show that you can add value to the team. And that was my whole thought process.
Now, you hear people talk about, the first year, as you mentioned, it's a whirlwind. You win a Super Bowl as a rookie, and then you go on to have this career. How long did it really take to kind of let that sink in, that first year in, you achieve the pinnacle of what you're trying to do, and then you try to work for that every year after that? How long did it take to that kind of sink in?
It was year 9. So year 1, win the Super Bowl. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to win like 4 of these. This is easy, right?
It's easy.
So we go back year 4.
And with the guy playing quarterback, you feel like you always have a chance.
Have a chance, right?
Yeah.
So we go back year 4, we lose. But then, things happen. We draft luck. We still have an opportunity, right? But then when I left Indy and I went elsewhere and, for the next 6 years, I never made the playoffs again. So at that time, I'm like, we had something really special in Indy.
Indeed.
We had something really special. Out of the 8 years I was here, we made the playoffs 7 of those years.
Wow.
And that's when I knew, I'm like, okay, we really had something special.
You came in right away. We talked about this last summer. You came in right away. You were a starter week 1 of your rookie season, drafted in the 6th round. Loaded question here. I understand that. But how hard is it for a rookie to play right away in the NFL?
It's tough. It's tough, but again, I did it, so it can be done, and it has been done. I think as a rookie, I think it's a number of things that has to go into that, right? Obviously, the player has to be ready. The player, it's a accountability where a young guy's coming in and they ask him to step into a role, but then I also think it's the coaches getting the young player ready. They're just a collective to be like, look, I know this young guy's going to come in, he's going to play for us, but we have to understand that he's going to make some mistakes. So I think it's collective as far as, player, coach, GM, organization, everything. But
right.
It can't be done.
Like you said, you're coming in here, you're giving your message to the rookies. What sort of words of wisdom can you give them? Can you share a story of your rookie season in terms of how tough it was to acclimate or life off the field? Like any anecdotes on how difficult it was just managing life in the NFL that first go round?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, and I always say this when I talk to guys, the sooner you can learn that this is a business, I think you can help yourself a lot, right? I don't think we talk about that enough. We talk about the football and we, as we should, but this is a $1 billion business, and you got to treat it as such. The organization is, the GM is, the owner is. So why wouldn't you? So I think that's one of the biggest things. As a rookie, the sooner you can understand that this is a business, and people are going to do what's best for the business, you have to understand that.
And it's every day. I mean, you have to prove your worth and your value every single day because everybody's replaceable.
100%. Like I talk about it. You get critiqued every day. You get critiqued every day. Like, I'm pretty sure other places you get critiqued, but to get critiqued every day, you go to work.
Right.
Like that's some
because teams are always trying to find that 1% edge to get better.
Exactly. So that's the first thing. But then also being able to manage off the field where you're dealing with family, you're dealing with friends, you're dealing with trying to be the best, at your position, at your job, staying healthy. So it's a lot, and again, being a rookie, being 21, being 20 years old, it's a lot to handle.
Now, you're helping out the young guys. When you step in there and you're talking to them, does it not seem like it was that long ago that you were in their shoes? I mean, time flies, but I'm sure it doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
It doesn't. Time does fly, but, just walking out there on the field, man, it just seemed like it was yesterday.
You look like you could still play.
Yeah,
too,
I agree.
I appreciate that. But it just seemed like yesterday, man, I was in the locker room. I was going out there in the field. So, again, that's just another message. Like, you just don't know when that time's going to come when you have to hang them up.
Playing safety, look at the Colts, a player like Nick Cross, drafted last year in the 3rd round, all the talent in the world. I mean, just a physical specimen, but obviously needs a little bit of time to adapt and get used to the mental side of things. What's he going through? For you, when did you feel like the mental side of playing safety in the National Football League really clicked and things slowed down for you?
It's funny you bring him up because he just asked me that question when I was on the field.
Perfect.
He just asked me, and I told him my first or second year was the biggest growth I feel I had throughout my career.
And that's exactly where he is.
Yep. So just, again, what we just talked about, not knowing what to do. Like, my first year I was coming in, I knew my playbook, and I was going to play football.
Right.
But as far as, the off the field, taking care of my body, creating a routine, like that's why I feel like, that's when you become a pro. It's you getting in the playbook, you studying, you doing this, you doing different things. So for year 1 to year 2, I would hope he would make his biggest jump at the position. And obviously for him, rookie year, in the defense, got a new head coach coming in. But for him, I think he could be in a really good spot where he can just go out there and you can go play ball.
Now, the game's always evolving. During your time, you saw quarterbacks look different in all sizes. The Colts took a guy in Anthony Richardson, 4th overall, who's got all these intangibles.
Yeah.
From a defensive side, what makes him so difficult, and what are you going to be able to help? If you got some guys that are asking, hey, what do I do to defend this? What would you kind of tell them?
Man, first of all, it's just his measurables, right? So for me, I was at best 5'11", 205. And, he's sitting at, 6'4",
245.
So, seeing him in the open field, that's like, all right, like free, GB, y'all do what y'all need to do. Right?
You guys got this?
Right. But then he's very mobile, right? So, as a defender, we say, in our division, we have Vince Young, right? Vince Young was very mobile, a big quarterback. And we had to take time during the week to draw up, rush lanes, so he wouldn't, beat you in the rush lanes and things of that nature. So as a defense, when you have a guy he's that big and he can move, it definitely gives you some things to worry about and to think about. But for him, I think he has a good system around him.
Oh yeah,
the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Reggie in the receiving room, getting the receivers ready. Have a great running back. O-line is solid. So for him, in my mind, just thinking about, just playing football, you don't have to throw too much at him at first. Just let him grow and lean on the run game and see what happens.
Trying to draw comparisons to when you played to now, I think going into your 7th season was that 2012 season, kind of that transition, new GM, new head coach, rookie quarterback. It's kind of what's going on right now with the new regime and the coaching staff and a rookie quarterback and a guy going into his 7th season, like a guy like DeForest Buckner. He's been here or he's been in the NFL a long time. He's established just like you were. Do you remember much about that transition, that offseason between 11 and 12, and the advice that maybe you gave Andrew Luck that had seemingly the weight of the world on his shoulders, trying to be the face of a franchise, kind of like what Anthony Richardson's going through right now? How did you try to help Andrew in 2012 dealing with all of that?
Yeah, so that was different too, where I think that situation was totally different because of the guys we still had in the locker room. You still had, Reggie Wayne, myself, Robert Matt. Like we still had a core nucleus of what the previous regime had built, right? So, and then you talk about Luck. Like Luck was different. Right? Where we still talk about it to this day, where he didn't obviously with the Stanford and how their semesters were. His first day here, like he was coming out here making checks, putting guys in places. So we understood, like, okay, we got something different here. So not to put that pressure on Anthony, but I think it was a little different, and I think again we always in a comparison world where we're trying to compare one to the other. And the Colts, we dealt with a lot of stuff last year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So again, I just think it's different positions, but I think we're in a good position.
Yeah.
To do some good things.
You watched the Colts last year, right? So you saw, just like everybody else, the 4-12-1, and you're also privy to the amount of talent that's on this team.
Yeah.
This roster, this team, it's not 4-12-1. Like, how close are the Colts, considering they've got a new head coach now and potentially a rookie quarterback?
Coach Dungy always said it, death by inches, man.
Yeah.
So that's
no, they lost 6 games by 1 score and 3 games by 1 point.
Exactly.
Right.
So that separates the great teams from the good teams from the bad teams. So they're right there. And again, you bring in a coach that's going to create this culture, a winning atmosphere. Not saying the previous regime didn't, but that's what it's all about. And all it takes is just one game at a time. Guys to build that continuity with one another. And I think we'll be good this year.
All right. I know you got to run. We got to get you out of here. Before we do, though, hype up the podcast, the Man-to-Man podcast with yourself and former Colts cornerback and safety Darius Butler. Hype it up. Where can we find it?
So you can find it anywhere you watch it or listen to your podcast.
I love
that. Again, myself, Antoine Bethea, and my co-host, former Colts player Darius Butler, the Man-to-Man podcast. We're live on YouTube every Monday, sometimes on Thursday at 10 o'clock Eastern. So again, tap into us. Come
it's good
come
stuff.
listen to us.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And it spawned from COVID, right? You guys got together during the shutdown.
Yeah, during the shutdown. We talked about on the way to the here to the studio. That's where it was born.
Absolutely. Antoine Bethea, one of the all-time greats, one of our all-time favorites, back in this studio, back in the building, enlightening the Colts rookies. Appreciate you making the time for us, and continued success. Have a great summer, all right?
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
That's Antoine Bethea. We're back here on the podcast live, if you will, with J.J. Stankevitz, Larra Overton. I'm Matt Taylor. Always a fantastic conversation with Antoine Bethea. Very well-spoken. That's why you should check him out on the Man-to-Man podcast, like you just mentioned, with Darius Butler, another former Colt who's been on this podcast many times in the past. That's wherever you get your podcast. Check it out. The Man-to-Man pod with Antoine Bethea and Darius Butler. All right, to close out, let's talk about some injuries, or I should say update the health of the Colts going into week 2 of the OTAs. The Colts still, obviously, like every other team, dealing with lingering injuries and some rehabs to monitor. So guys that were not going last week, linebacker Shaquille Leonard still dealing with that back injury. Rigoberto Sanchez, the Achilles that he injured in training camp last year. Running back Jonathan Taylor with that ankle problem, had surgery in the offseason. The Colts are being cautious with him. Tight end Drew Ogletree dealing with the knee. That was an ACL tear in training camp last year. And then rookie cornerback Juju Brents dealing with that wrist that he had surgery on right after the combine. As far as Leonard and Sanchez, Shane Steichen said those guys are doing well. They're progressing, but no timetable there. Josh Downs was out with a minor injury, as was tight end Jelani Woods. Quote, he's got a little hamstring deal there, according to Shane Steichen. And also starting right tackle Braden Smith is rehabbing a leg injury and did not practice last Thursday during the OTA period. Also wide receiver, congratulations, Michael Pittman Jr., not present. His wife gave birth to their second child and first son. So congrats
MP3
to the Michael Pittman clan. As
Michael Pittman III, MP3.
File that away for later.
Yes, indeed. So with that, let's start with the tackle situation. We talked about Braden Smith. Freeland running with the first-team offense at right tackle in place of Braden Smith. Good sign, I would say, for his ability later to play right away, be a guy that the Colts can count on. That Swiss Army knife, play right side, play left side of the tackle position, kind of bodes well for his acclimation process going into his first year. A guy the Colts trust right away.
And it's encouraging not just the fact that he is running in that position with the starters right now while Braden is working his way back, but also encouraging for the much desperately needed depth at offensive line. That's one of the areas of
especially
weakness.
Especially at tackle.
Yeah, one of the areas of weakness that this team has had really the last 2 seasons, if you think about it. So I think that it's encouraging for a number of different reasons for Blake Freeland, especially being that you did spend a great deal of, draft capital at that position. So that's a guy who you do want to be a contributor in whatever fashion that is sooner rather than later.
And then with Shaq Leonard, JJ, still not going out there in OTAs with the first-team defense. At what point do we start getting concerned? I mean, do we need to see him on the field at all this spring to feel good about that warm and fuzzy feeling about Shaq Leonard going back into this defense? When should our eyebrows start to raise officially?
Yeah, I mean, I think I get why there's more scrutiny on Shaq at this point of the year, just given what he's gone through over the last year. But removing that, it's a guy not practicing during OTAs. Who cares? Like that's how I feel. I never can get myself worked up about someone not participating in OTAs because of an injury. I can't do it.
Oh, man, I am. I'm concerned.
I'm saying it, but I have to add back in the rest of the concern on it, knowing what he's been through. Like that, my baseline is just so dismissive of that.
I mean, normally, yes.
Right.
I agree with
right.
you, yes.
So I'm still trying to gauge where I'm at on that, but I think I'm still leaning more toward, I'll raise my eyebrows if we get to training camp and he's not there yet.
74 snaps total for Shaq Leonard last year. And this is a guy, like we said, he just hasn't played a whole lot of football, either off-season football, regular season football, preseason football. Just hasn't played a whole lot since, January of 2022?
And when he's played, hasn't played healthy in about 3 years.
So in some ways, this is kind of like year one for Shaq Leonard in Gus Bradley's defense. Now, maybe not mentally in terms of knowing the playbook, but just being out there and leading the defense and being the vocal leader on the field while the live bullets are going during the regular season. I think some ways it might feel like it's the first time for Leonard to do that with Gus Bradley as his guy on the sidelines.
I think it's important because Shaq is a guy who gets better when playing. Like he just is a guy who had such a great rookie season because he played, and he played in every game and contributed in every game. So I think just for his level of confidence and comfort and just overall kind of cohesiveness with the rest of the group, he thrives in being out there and in contributing. And even when he was kind of on those pitch counts in certain scenarios with injury, I think that was hard for him to wrestle with, to have a limitation. I think all of this is concerning, and I think he was a little bit, I haven't had this conversation with him, but he's pretty candid in how he has struggled mentally with the time period that he has not been with his team. Even though he's out on the practice field, he's in the meeting room, that isn't where he's at his best. He's at his best when he is out there on the field and he's barking and he's energizing the other guys and he's punching the ball out and he's ripping it, taking the ball. Exactly.
Right.
So I do. I think it is. I think big picture there is a plan, and this is all probably on the timetable of what they expected. And because of the setbacks he has endured in the last 2 seasons, they're probably approaching this in a much more pragmatic way. And JJ, to your point, that's probably why there isn't a great concern, because this is probably what they wanted instead of rushing him back and pushing through some of the things.
Sure.
You know, maybe he rushed back last fall too quickly, and so what they're taking from the things that they've learned previously, this is why the way it is. But just knowing the athlete that Shaq is, I think that it is a little bit concerning for how long it's going to take him to get up to speed, because even if he's in training camp, he's probably not playing in the preseason.
Right.
And then you're going out there week 1 and you're expecting him to be back at 100% level and 100% production. I think that that's a little bit of a risky expectation to have.
It's going to be a really fine line, but I mean, Shaq himself admitted last year he pushed himself to get back before he was ready because, like you mentioned, Larra, he needs to play. Like that, he needs to play. And it's hard for any football player, but especially for a guy like Shaq, to be told, like, you shouldn't. So I have to imagine this is not a very easy time for Shaq, even just in these practices right now.
Right.
But kind of what you mentioned of, like, you got to bring him along slow, and you got to make sure that however you get him there, however he gets himself there, that he can contribute on the field in 2023 for the Indianapolis Colts. And look, I mean, Shaq's not going anywhere on this team. He signed a contract extension 2 years ago that's going to keep him here for a long time. And you got to think about, as the team, you got to think about the long-term investment you have made in this player. It's not just about getting him out there for week 1 and let's make sure he's ready.
Yeah.
If he's ready for week 1, get him out there. But if he still needs some time, you want to make sure that when he gets out there, he is really ready to go.
I'll tell you, though, like in a number of different conversations that I've had with him, nothing hurts him more than to not contribute to this team and to not be out there alongside those guys.
Sure.
I mean, it absolutely devastates him because of the amount of investment he has as a teammate. It's not so much in his individual numbers and individual performance. It's the overall good of the team. And that is something that he struggles with in not being available and not being out there. So that's going to be something that he's going to really wrestle with in terms of if they are trying to pull back the reins a little bit when we, get into the thick of August.
Right. And on September 10th, if Shaq Leonard is healthy and he can play, who gives a you-know-what about what happened on May 30th?
Right.
But it is a topic of conversation just because he has missed. That was a good song, by the way.
I just opened my phone. What?
Just because of the lack of time, not on task, if you will, not being able to be out there, and considering all that was taken away from him and his ability to do that the last, 18, 19 months.
I guess my point on this, why I kind of say who cares, is I don't think participation in OTA practice on May 30th is predictive of participation in a game that matters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Nor do I.
Good point.
Nor do I. Good stuff right there. That's a look at the health status and the ongoing rehabs for the Indianapolis Colts. We're winding down. Let's get weird. Let's get random.
Random thought of the week.
And why is the carpet all wet, Todd?
I don't know, Margot.
You guys going out of town? You know if it's cold there? Do these vans get good gas mileage?
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Is it me? Is it my turn?
It's you.
Is it my turn?
It's you, yeah.
All right. I don't know if this is random, but I do have a question for you. I was listening to the radio over the weekend, and I don't know if it's a commercial for Airbnb or VRBO, but one of these, rent the house of someone else commercials or these platforms. And it's promoting the fact that you can rent through them and get the entire house, and no one stays with you.
I've seen this.
You get the entire property.
I stayed in an Airbnb in San Diego once where we stayed in like a downstairs floor that had like everything. but we weren't the only people in the house. Like, the owners were upstairs.
Well, is this a thing?
It was a thing when I was like...
People are renting out their house while they stay and you come and visit and hang out?
I think, and Airbnb can contact me if I'm wrong about this.
This
because
so
that's
weird.
an ad for VRBO that you're talking about.
Okay.
But I think Airbnb, you can rent out a room as long as it has, like, its own entrance.
Its own quarters?
Yeah. I have no interest in doing that anymore. But, I mean, when I was, traveling in 26 and trying to save a buck.
You're just going for the cheapest option.
Right.
Yeah, but who wants to go on vacation with someone else in that house? I couldn't believe they were actually promoting it because I had never heard of it before.
I was kind of baffled when I heard that too. I was like, maybe I'm just unaware, and I tend to travel to the same places a lot. So we have like our go-to like places where we routinely stay. So I don't think that there are that many times that I'm like, oh, I need to find a place in San Diego, or whatever, and I'm like searching like just aimlessly.
You ever putting your house on VRBO?
No. Well, no. There are too many bodies.
$1,200 a night.
There's too much mass in my house as it is. Between adults and canine, like I don't know how many more people.
It's a lot of hair.
Fit. There's a lot of yes, exactly. So I mean, it's already like even when like my siblings come in town, we're like, oh man, we got to open up the guest room here and make it work out.
Got to wash these sheets.
Yeah. Well, and we've been storing stuff in the guest room, so we got to like work everything around. So yeah. No, I don't know. That's an interesting one.
JJ, you letting anybody sleep in your bed?
No. That part of it to me.
That's a non-starter. Like
of,
no chance.
Renting out your house. Like no. Even if you
people
change the
though,
sheets,
I've heard though, like this past weekend, if you have a house in proximity to Speedway, Indiana,
there you go.
You could probably pay your mortgage for the year. Like like off of.
That's like selling one game and then getting your entire season tickets paid for.
That is enticing a little bit.
Yeah.
Or like when the Super Bowl was in town in 2012, someone because I live at the time I lived 8 minutes from downtown, and someone said rent it out and make $2,000 a night, and I'm like. Back then, I was like, is this a thing?
Right.
Like, this is right when Uber's getting going, right when, like, the whole, like, we share everything mentality in society. I'm like, who's doing this? Who wants strangers in their house just destroying everything and going through your stuff? What are we doing?
Now, I will tell you, so my coach from college, Judy Wilson, her husband is a massive Packers fan, and they bought 2 houses that are walking distance from Lambeau Field that are just investment properties.
Wow.
Just solely as like rentals.
See,
and
that's fine.
So,
yeah, that's a great call.
Oh my gosh. But during the season, it's probably rented out like for, a year in advance. Like as soon as.
Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah, totally.
Also, Green Bay, by the way, the lack of
there aren't a lot of
in
hotels.
Green Bay.
Yeah, you got to go to Appleton, right?
For the NFL draft, everyone's going to be staying in Appleton.
Yeah.
Let's go party in Oshkosh.
Does anyone else, when you hear Appleton, Wisconsin, do you think of Perfect Strangers, Cousin Larry Appleton? Like, that's the first thing that just pops into my mind. Like, child of the 90s right there. I think of Balky and Cousin Larry Appleton.
I think of booking a Fairfield in Appleton and then getting a notice that it was getting changed to, like, an America's Best Inn before covering a Bears-Packers game and going there and it being just a dirty hotel.
It was not the best.
No, it was not the best.
No.
Some friends of ours, they do a bike trip, and so they bike all across, like, several states. And I do know that there have been times when they're like, oh, yeah, we'll just, like, get a room for the night in the house. So, like, because they'll camp some, but then they also, like, sometimes you want a house so you can go in and shower. And they've done that, and they've had great success with it. And they love it because you meet...
Very nice. Borat references still relevant in 2023.
You meet all kinds of fascinating people who are, like, just like, oh, yeah, open up my home. Like, yeah, come on in.
So,
like, they say it's wonderful.
Well, I mean, would you rather, Maytay, if you're traveling, would you rather stay in a room in a house where the other people are in the house or like a hostel?
Yeah, if I need to get through one night, I mean, I can stay with someone else. I can stay in a place knowing someone else is there, but they're not in the same. They don't share the same walls with me.
The budget part of that, I think, comes into consideration here. Biking across the country and you're camping half the time, you probably don't care if hey, I just need a place that's got a
Right.
shower.
Yeah,
You know, who
yeah.
cares
And
if
just
there are other
crash for a
people
couple
here?
hours and
multiple
shower.
ways
and,
to do it, man.
Yeah.
No-
But they say it's an awesome way to just like meet new people. If you're the adventurous type,
Yes.
it's very cool.
Yeah, but if I'm bringing the kids and I'm setting up the pack and play, get the hell out of here. All right, I need my space.
They don't want you there.
Yeah, you don't want us to be there, and likewise, right? No one's getting any sleep tonight. I can tell you that. All right, video wise this week, Larry, what's coming down the pike in terms of production?
We'll be out at practice every day this week. There will be media availability on Friday. We've got the video up for all of our podcasts that are going. The
person behind the pad.
Thank you. There we go. So a lot of that action coming up.
JJ, what are you writing about?
I'm mostly using this week to work ahead.
Yes.
Since there isn't media availability until Friday, so working on some fun stuff for the summer, just to keep some fresh content up on Colts.com. It's the week after Memorial Day. I think everyone's kind of still recovering a little bit from the weekend, whether you went to the race or not.
Yeah,
So,
getting ready for summer.
yeah. I'm thinking ahead to summer here too. I'm in that mode now.
Indeed. As Lara said, Person Behind the Pads, that podcast series continues. Our off the field, personal conversation with Colts players, getting to know them. The only rule is no football conversation, no football topics. This week our guest is Alec Pierce, regarding growing up in a very athletic household, Lara, and the role that sports played in he and his brother's upbringing. And the Pierces, as you chronicled earlier in the offseason, very well represented in the NCAA tournament there.
Yeah, and just kind of being the middle child in like what was a very interesting like family dynamic. I joked that Stephanie Pierce, Alec's mom, like the back of her minivan or SUV had to look like a Dick's Sporting Goods.
Stunk like B.O.
Hustling, have to get the guys, all of their different sports. Volleyball nets back there, and everything else, football pads, and basketballs and cleats and everything.
Yeah,
so when I did that story last season about if football never existed, what sport would you play professionally? I was talking to Ashton Doolin about it, and Alec was kind of like looking over at me like, "You gonna ask me? You gonna ask me?" And then he walked away from his locker, and I walked somewhere else. And then he came and he found me in the locker room later, and he goes, "By the way, it would be beach volleyball."
100%. His mom was a
great
boss.
volleyball player.
Yeah, volleyball stud at
Yeah.
Northwestern for sure. Yeah. He was. It's funny because the other two went the direction of basketball,
Hoops.
obviously, and I was like, wait, do you feel like that the volleyball skill set really translated well to football? And it obviously has.
Again, just high point that sucker, bring it down.
Exactly.
Box some people out, use that physicality. So check out Lara's conversation with Alec Pierce a little bit later this week on The Person Behind the Pads. Last words back on Friday. Jeffrey Gorman joins me from parts unknown. Literally, I have no idea where he is.
It's like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
It's always an adventure. Thursday night, I
Yeah.
send that text like, what time and where are you at? We'll figure out the time zones later, right? But we'll do that, breaking down week 2 of OTAs, and we'll examine the Colts tight end group going into training camp. Guys, fantastic job, per usual. JJ Stankevitz, Larra Overton. Summertime is here, like we talked about. Temperatures are on the rise, and we're with you all summer long. We're talking Colts football all the way up until training camp in late July. OTAs roll on this week, and we're back for another conversation, back at it next Tuesday, getting you ready then for the off-season workout program to come to a conclusion, and, of course, minicamp June 13th through the 15th. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. This is the Official Colts Podcast, brought to you by WinBet, Colts Audio Network. So long for JJ, Larra. I'm Matt Taylor. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.